Hey everybody, welcome to one more round. Today I'm very excited. I'm meeting Sin for the first time, Sin Silva. She's an artist, and for those of you who don't know much about me, my dad is an artist. He's been doing stuff since he was 6 years old, and I've watched him create art my entire life, so I've always been fascinated. And when Sin had asked if she could come on the podcast, I started looking at her work. I'm like, absolutely. So welcome, glad to have you today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so you do it all. You do real estate, you do artwork and all this, and you're originally from the Bay Area, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what got you into art?
I have always been into art since I got my first box of crayons, basically. So all throughout elementary school, high school. When I was 12, I took art theory, studied with an artist based in Carmel. She's amazing. And she taught me everything. She basically taught me all the types of paint. So oil, watercolor, gouache, acrylic, pencils. She would make me line up 50 pencils because there's like F's, H's, B's. You have to know what they mean. We would go paint on location. If I was going to paint the clouds, she would tell me, you're not ready yet. You have to learn what they are. So there's cumulus, stratus, cirrus. Like, she made me learn everything.
Wow.
And then she would take, like, let's say it's a wine glass or martini glass. She'd put it on the table with the shadow and put light from one end. And she would make me list all the tones and the values of where the light's coming from and sketch it out, use a different so I was, like, thrown into it. And I loved it. And, I did that every weekend. I didn't really tell a lot of people that I was an artist. In high school, my teachers, I was taking graphic design, architecture, actually was studying to become an architect or a graphic designer. I liked both. And so the teachers, they would actually buy my art. So when I was doing it in graphic design, the class, I'd finish it. And this one English teacher bought probably 5 of my pieces.
Oh, that's cool.
And when you're, 16, it's like, sure, get $200 and I'd go spend it on clothes, whatever. But I just loved it. And so I was starting to do a lot of galleries in high school. And I did a lot of that. Didn't really think about it, but it felt like, the money part, it's good, but I like nice things. I want to travel. I want a nice car. I like sports cars, all that. So when I was 18, I was thinking about real estate. So I got my license at 19 and dove into that. But I had various other jobs, at the same time. So
you were in the Bay Area doing real estate then, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so you're doing that, and you just moved out here 2 years ago, you told me.
Yes.
Which is cool, and I want to get back to like more art and the story there, but I was telling you, it's kind of amazing your network you've grown in 2 years, because you do luxury properties.
Right.
And you have been successful out here. How did you build your network out here so quickly?
It's funny you asked that. A lot of people have asked the same thing, but it's all about putting yourself out there. So I'm not shy. I love meeting people. I love talking. I think that there's so many people out there with different professions you can learn something from. Like, for instance, meeting you. Like, I reached out to you, I'm like, hey, and you were receptive, like, yeah, sure, come on the show. I'm like, cool. But there's interior designers, there's chefs, like, there's so many different types of businesses, right? Get to know them and see how you can help them with your own business. So perhaps a chef, a restaurant. Maybe I want to ask them if they want to hang a piece of art in there, right? So I'm always kind of thinking outside the box. Whatever is different that other people aren't doing, I'll do.
And and that's just great. You're right. You got to put yourself out there if you're going to grow your network. And so many people are like, I want to have this big network of people, but they don't want to talk to anybody. And that's just not how you do it. I always say be intentional with the person in front of you, because you never know the reason that you're supposed to meet that person. And it's just the way to look at life, I think.
Yeah.
But you were talking a minute ago, and you were talking about her taking a glass and then you seeing the light coming through it. Is that... So a lot of that, it was learned. It wasn't something that was just like God-given, because you're really good. But like you have to learn those types of things, the tones and everything, how light comes through so it looks natural, right?
Right. When I was 10, I actually remember my mom, we were walking through a mall, and there was this room, like this lady was teaching art. So a lot of the artists that were learning, they were older ladies. I was 10. And I said, Mom, I really want to do this. Sign me up. And so I was with all these older, ladies. They were cute, like doing their oil painting. It was kind of that Bob Ross style, And I did this painting. I still have the 3 paintings, but they're snow scenes, and they came out really cool. And my mom was like, whoa. And then my sister was like, oh my God, like, you're really talented.
Is that when you like knew you were good?
I knew, yeah. I would, for the school plays and things, like when I was in 4th grade, they would make me draw Santa Claus pulling the reindeer, and they'd put it on the program.
Okay.
Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. But I just didn't really think about it. I was almost like embarrassed that I'm an artist.
And like that talent you didn't want to
to
like unleash and let everybody know about?
I just felt like I didn't want to be the artsy fartsy person. Like, it's just different. But my boyfriends in high school, they all loved my art, so I would do like pieces for them, like their car or whatever. Yeah,
my dad, it was similar to him.
That
like in
is
high
so
school,
cool.
he we were part of the Safford Bulldogs, right, where we went to high school.
Yeah.
And his friends, his girlfriend, my mother at the time, had him, draw the bulldog and all that stuff. Well, his bulldog was actually what they put on the program. I think it's still the same bulldog today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing logos. Like moving out here, a friend of mine, she told the owner of Pure Bar in North Scottsdale, she could do that, your logo. So I did it on their wall.
Oh, nice.
And it's the big giant, like 10-foot by 10-foot red Pure Bar.
Yeah.
The ball. And that was really fun. When I started it, I'm always learning something from each mural that I do. That one, I got the red color, but when I put it down, it was almost like, it wasn't as bright cherry red. So, and these are things that nobody talks about, or they don't even know the half of it. But I'm like, I'm gonna go get a sandwich. So I left, and I went to 3 paint stores and bought 3 different reds. I'm like, finally got the cherry red. I'm like, I just need you to make me like the brightest red. Like, don't add any tint, nothing. And some would do it, but they didn't get it right. I'm a perfectionist. Like, no, it's not the right red.
Yeah.
Like this red, that's the red I was looking for, and that's how it came out.
Well, and it's true. Like,
But you have to have it perfect.
But when you have that picture in your head, it's got to look like that picture in your head.
Exactly.
And I only understand that conceptually, or in business. Like, there's certain things I want to work a certain way, but like in art, it's exactly like that. So my dad's very much the same way. I would see him just fussing over a painting, and sometimes it would be weeks, and it would be like just one portion of the painting. I'm like, dude, Dad, this looks great. My stepmom would be like, oh, that's awesome. He'd say, but this horse, I need to adjust the face a little bit. And I'm like, all right, but see, he saw it, and that's it's kind of neat how you can do that.
Yeah, and that's the thing with every painting, I can see it. Like, I see how I want it to be in the end. Like, I totally see it, 100%. So I already have the image in my brain, and when I paint it, if it's not that, I'm going to keep working one area. Now, sometimes I might do a painting, it might take me a couple months, because I'm like, shoot, I got to work this one part still, right? I'm not happy with it. And with oil, I could wipe it off, whatever. In fact, there was a piece I did, an art commission last year for a guy, and it was a birthday present from a friend of his, and I was struggling with him in it, just him, because that's the person that I'm painting it for, and he's in this painting.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest part. And they said, okay, put Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, all these, and they wanted to be around a table with him in the middle. I got everybody right. Like, those are easy. Steve Jobs, like, cool. Warren Buffett, I had him throwing up money.
Yeah.
I don't have it on my webpage or anything. A lot of art commissions I kind of keep private.
Yeah.
But if people are interested, they want to see my portfolio, I will gladly send them a PowerPoint that has everything.
Okay.
But that was the hardest part. Like, your dad, he was still working a part of that horse. I was still working this face to make sure I got it right. And then finally, I was like, okay, done.
Yeah.
But my husband, my kids would be like, it's done. Like, it looks great. I'm like, no, it's horrible. This part, like, I hate it. No, it's not ready yet.
Yeah, and I can understand it too, like, especially because he's the one non-famous person, right? So the other people you've had in your brain for years,
right?
You're seeing that guy for the first time, a picture,
Exactly.
and you just don't have the same character behind the person,
Right.
that you do with these other people. So I can see that being
Exactly.
difficult. And
Yeah.
again, he's got to be the star of the show.
Right.
It's his painting.
I had to get
so,
it right.
yeah, that's awesome. So
Yeah,
I
it's
know
fun, though.
you've worked all over the place. What are some of your favorite commission pieces that you've done, or just pieces in general, not necessarily
I
commission
would
pieces?
say, I had a really fun mural that I did in Chandler for Unmarked Beauty. And it was on their wall. They wanted something with a face, kind of like Marilyn. I love doing lips and eyes and whatever. And I did some Montana spray. So I love spray, like graffiti art too. Again, like I could basically do every medium. And it's not because I'm smart. It's just because I've been doing this for like decades.
Yeah.
And I always challenge myself. And you have to know every medium. There are artists that they might have the same thing. So sometimes people will say, what kind of art do you do? They'll ask me like, oh, what kind of art? And I have a very lame answer. I'll say, I don't know, like everything. And they're like, everything. Like I said, I know it's a lame answer, but I basically do everything. And sometimes people will think, okay, you should just have your web page show pop art. Or this certain style. I'm like, no, like I'm going to be different. I'm just going to show a few of different things, and if they want to inquire more, then I'll send them those pieces. Yeah.
So like, where do you come up with your ideas for a lot of your work?
I just kind of wake up with crazy ideas, and I also think of like very positive quotes. Sink or Swim was a recent one that I did. You can, have that shark-like attitude. You're going to make it in anything you want if you put your desire into it in your heart, right?
Right.
You can either sink or swim. So I did like little sharks and, little scuba diver guy, but they're all hidden. But a painting will tell a story. This is a big, like 5 by 6 foot. And I just released it a couple months ago. But it's very, if you look at it, you're going to see 10 hidden messages in it.
Cool.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff, or Serena Williams.
Yeah, that you tell that story. That was a cool story.
I was watching the U.S. Open, and my husband and I were watching it, and then the interview after she was retiring, doing her speech, and they interviewed her, and they said, "How did you make that last shot? Like, how did you do it?" And she just looked at the camera and she said, "What? I'm just Serena."
Yeah.
And I got it on video, and I'm like, I'm gonna paint that because I like painting something that nobody else has done. And maybe other people have done it, since then, I don't know. But I just see certain things and I'm like, I want to paint it. Like right now I have at least, I would say 20 things that I want to paint, but I really have probably 100 of ideas.
Well, and that's the neatest thing, and you hit it on the head. I think art tells a story.
It does, right?
Every once in a while, I'll talk about art or whatever, and I'm not really interested in art.
Yeah.
It's just because they don't understand it, right? They don't understand the story that's behind it. And I think anybody could have appreciation if they're like, okay, well, what's the story behind this?
Yes.
And not like a, painting that's in like a Marriott or something that's just, aesthetically pleasing to the palate.
Yeah.
But the story behind it's fun. So like your golf one, what's the story behind that one? That's a really cool picture.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's Arnold. I just wanted to paint, a golfer, right? I had several people out here when I moved here like, oh, do you do golf scenes and golf courses? Yeah, sure. Like I've done Augusta. That was a commission back in California. But I'll do a lot of scenery, like everything. But this golfer, I was pulling up golf images and I saw this one, a black and white photo from way back of Arnold Palmer. And his swing was awesome. And it was just like this silhouette. And I thought, I'm going to paint that in oil, like huge. So it's like 4 by 5 or 4 by 6 feet, all oil. Did a lot of palette knife. When I created it, I wanted it to look like it was in action.
Yes.
So a lot of my art, and my baseball player one, a lot of my art, I try to make it look like it's moving on the canvas.
Yeah.
And it makes your mind think like, whoa, like I see energy in it.
Well, what was really interesting when I looked at it the first time is I saw exactly that, right? I saw movement. And when you look at it closely, you don't see a golf club very, very defined.
Right.
But you see the movement of what you know is a golf because of the way he's standing.
True.
And it's like you get that immediately when you see it. So it's very cool how you can do that without having something very concrete that you know is a golf club.
Right.
And you see the movement of it. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the baseball player, that was actually one of my clients from real estate. I sold him a place in Alamo, California, and I thought, I want to paint you. And he's like, okay. And so he was with the Oakland A's, and then now he's a host for MLB Network. But on him too, like I wanted him to look like he's swinging the bat.
Yeah.
And that was my goal. And
you definitely get that.
So thank you. Yeah. So it, I have a lot of ideas of what to paint. There's a lot of things that I still want to paint. But yeah, that's pretty much. I kind of see it first.
I'm going to just plant that Novak Djokovic. I think that would be a perfect painting for someday. Because he's going to go down as the greatest tennis player of all time. And,
for sure.
And he's got, like we were talking about, he's just got that energy. Like that would be a fun energy to paint because you know it when you look at him.
Right. And that's the thing where if I'm doing a portrait, I want to try to capture that.
Yes.
Because you could see it in that person. And so I always just try to keep evolving. And I think, there's a lot to learn.
Yes.
I've had years and years in schooling of art. But am I great? No. Do I feel confident? No. Do I think I'm the best artist? No. I look at other people's art, I'm like, oh my God, they're so good. Like, I want to be.
It's just so funny to hear you say that, because I think it's a common thing among artists that are really good. Like, they don't think they're very good. Or even people that are in acting. Like, there's just this, I don't know, there's this awareness about themselves that they don't feel like they're as good as everybody says they are.
Right.
Which is what pushes you to get better and better and better and grow, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like keep growing. If my art is selling, it's like, okay, it's selling. And I just want to keep pushing it. Like, I'm not happy with, like, why not?
Right.
If I make a painting today, I want my next one to be better than the one that I made today.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That's an interesting question, too. How long does it take you to do a piece like this?
It depends.
Like the Arnold one, for example.
The Arnold, that was probably 4 months.
4 months, okay.
Yeah, because it's oil, and you have to wait for each layer to dry, especially black and white. So a lot of people think, oh, there's only 2 colors. Like, that's easy. It's actually the hardest to paint.
Okay.
If you only have 2 tubes of paint, a white and a black, it's harder than painting with color.
That makes sense, especially since, if they are blended together, they're going to be grays.
50 shades of gray, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, you were telling me you have 4 kids.
Yes.
And do any of them, are they artists too, or?
Not really. They always tell me, like, Mom, you should have taught me more art when we were little. But everybody's so busy in sports and this and that. But I would say they're decent, but is it their thing? No.
Okay.
But they love seeing my art. Like, they're always, like, what are you painting now? Can we watch you? And, so
now,
it's
do they have
cool.
pieces that you've done in their house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my one bugaboo about my father.
Oh, shoot.
It was, and he's corrected since.
Yeah.
But I'm like, every relative we have has a piece of your artwork in their house.
Right.
And I don't. And,
yeah.
So finally, the first piece he gave me was actually one that he had done when he was, 13, 14 years old. It was
how
really
cool.
But then he did the one I showed you, the lion.
Yeah.
And that's cool because it's right as you enter our house. And in fact, a friend of mine, Dylan. So Dylan means the lion, right? So he comes over for dinner with his wife one night. He sees, oh my, this is amazing. So I ended up gifting him one. I had my dad do another print of it. And
very cool.
So I have one. He's still, or 2.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I feel, I'm starting to just put my art out there. Like, moving here, I feel like I'm starting all over, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I felt like, okay, how do I get my art out there? So meet interior designers, ask them for coffee, just everything.
Yeah.
And with my real estate, I've met people in that too, that realm. That helps. Donate art. So I've been donating every other month, pretty much, I'll donate a piece of art for a good cause.
Cool.
And that's free press. It raises money for the foundation, fundraiser. If I had a bunch of money, I would be donating money. But I'm like, hey, I could help them raise money through my art for a good cause.
It's huge. Well, you said you did a piece or on that paper with the Dream Center, and that's something my
Maryland
partner has been involved with for a long time, and they do great work. They're an
amazing
organization.
Yeah.
And it's grown like crazy. I think Tommy Barnett and Matthew Barnett started that 20 years ago, initially in California.
Oh, wow.
And then they built the Dream Center out here, and it's just what they do for the homeless and the human trafficking side of the world. They really...
It's amazing.
Yeah. So what are you currently working on right now, piece-wise?
I'm actually doing a commission of horses for a friend of mine, and it's going to be like a 4x6. And the horses are going to be running through, but make it kind of abstract. Yeah, kind of like wild and free.
Nice.
So that'll be oil, and it's going to look like action. So that'll probably be 4 months. I may fly out to Charleston, South Carolina for a mural for a med spa. That's in the works. I kind of created this funny little creature. It's like a Martian, but I was drawing them when I was like 15. And I'm going to do a whole series on it where it's more like a fun toy, kind of that pop art feeling.
Yeah.
It seems weird, and it's to me like, why would I paint this little cartoony thing? But I'm just kind of getting back into that, and I love that style, and you see a lot of it selling now, like vinyl toys. It's the whole big thing, right? These big giant like oil paintings of a teddy bear, bright colors, all that. So I'm going to do my Martian.
Cool.
And I haven't seen him anywhere. I'm
Maybe
going to unveil it soon.
You remember I'm trying to remember the name of the guy, but he did the martinis and with the olives.
Oh, yeah.
And it just like blew up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And everybody had, like my grandparents had one of those.
My neighbor has one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your
I know, right?
olives in a martini.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I love doing martini glasses. Those are fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my dad, so he had one that he called Scuffed, and it was this alligator that he drew. And he actually had it on T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. But same kind of thing.
Same kind of thing.
Because he used to draw cartoons for our local paper.
Oh,
and
very cool.
That was always fun because he's got a really good sense of humor too, and he'd draw that, and so I think cartoony things are
it's
great.
Different. Yeah. So that's my kind of next series. I am painting the Grand Canyon. Well, I just finished 2 of the Grand Canyon, so I had a interior designer, and she goes, "Do you do landscapes?" I'm like, "Yes." Like I used to do a ton. I just kind of got bored with it.
Yeah.
But I could pretty much paint, any scenery. So my husband and I drove to the Grand Canyon. It was 4 hours, set out my paint stuff, started the painting, stayed the night there, and then we came back the next day, and then I finished it at home. But I had 2, one with palette knife. I did one kind of edgy, and then the other one more realistic.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are my 2 recent, but I do like painting
I'd like
plein
to see
air.
those.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll show you.
Yeah.
But they're small pieces, but they're plein air. And I thought I just need to build up my portfolio for these designers out here to know what I do.
Right.
Because I feel like I just moved here 2 years ago, so I'm starting over for art and real estate. So the art part, I just have to prove myself. There's so many amazing, like incredible artists out here. They're amazing.
It's a very cool scene out here.
Yeah. And I love like just meeting these artists. I'm actually starting like a coffee chat group for artists, and we're gonna do it at the Henry.
Oh, cool.
That room that I was telling you about. Like you can just go in there, use the room, have your coffee, and I'll invite 10 artist friends that I've met and that I love. Like we just collaborate, and a couple of them are just starting. And when it asked me like, how do I do this? I'm like, okay, do this, use this color, whatever. It could be just from getting like the art wipes. They're, I found some at Ace Hardware. They're called Grime Boss.
Okay.
They are the best art wipes ever. They're all like $5. Or you can go to Blick Art, and spend 15 on a big thing that doesn't work as well. So we just share a lot of stuff. So I'm like, let's do an art group.
That's cool.
Just to share, not monthly because I don't really have time for that, but just like every quarter, we all get together. There's no competition, and a lot of artists out here, they, like any business, some people are competitive.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but we can you can't copy each other. Like, we're all so different.
Right.
There's no way. If somebody wanted to copy my art, they can't. If I wanted to copy their art, I can't. You know, it's just, we're all different.
Right. Oh, which is what makes it so cool.
So unique.
Like one person is
Right.
like putting this out there, creating this image, creating something that's, a story. Yeah, because like I had mentioned a couple of years ago, we had bought a piece by Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
And it was very unique. The piece in and of itself was unique, but I was talking to the gentleman. He reminded me of my granddad, by the way. Like my granddad had risen from the grave and now
my
was selling
God.
me a painting.
That's weird.
But he was it was very weird. But he was telling me, like, when you're buying art, that there's some things to look for if you want it to appreciate. Do you have any thoughts on that at all? And I can share what he said, but
Yeah, I mean, if there's something unique in that piece that's different, I basically sell like all original art, and I could do limited editions, I could do prints, I could do merch. I just don't. It's just not my thing. I feel like art is unique, and if you buy a piece of art, it's original. Like, I'm not going to go mass produce it and now it's going to be at Target and everywhere else, right?
right.
So, like the Dr. Seuss, like, that is really cool. His story and that you're holding on to is worth a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's how he sold me on it. So what he's number one, it was limited edition. So number two, Dr. Seuss isn't making any more paintings. He's been, been
Right.
away for a while.
Yeah.
He said, and number three, it's got to be something unique, like you hit on. And for that particular painting, he had signed it, and then apparently he didn't feel like the painting was done, so he stretched the canvas out, and then he signed it again. So it's the only one he's actually signed twice. So he's like, that in and of itself, and he told me, he says, you're going to be sorry you didn't buy more of these. And
Right.
7 years later, I looked at, how much it is now, and I'm like, yep, I am sorry I did
Yeah.
not buy more of them. Because,
Right.
and art's great because it appreciates, and especially if
Yeah.
it's an original, like,
Right.
you're the only one that can do that.
Right.
There's not going to be any more reprints of it.
Yeah.
The value is pretty amazing that you can get out of that.
Yeah. And I love doing art commissions. Like, I just love, when I moved here, for me, my goal is to meet as many interior designers as I can and help them with their business. If they need art curation, or they know their business, right? They know furniture, they know design, style, staging, like all of it.
Yeah.
I don't know any of that. Like, I am horrible at that. But they're good at it. But they might say, hey, I don't know the difference in between acrylic and oil. Can you come help? I'm like, absolutely. Like, tell me the address. And of course, it's this $10 million home, right?
Yeah.
And like, okay, they probably want more oil because there's texture, and you're gonna get all the windows here, the light, from Camelback Mountain shining in. They're like, okay, cool. And just helping them with that. And it's just like, how can we collaborate? Strength in numbers with any business, right? Just
Right.
help each other.
So it was interesting what you were saying about the light, like hitting the painting and the texture from the oils. Never really thought about that, but yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
you have a really nice lighting,
Right.
Natural light, makes sense to have more of a textured
Yeah,
painting.
absolutely. Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So how can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, so Luxury Sin Silva.